Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Iain Gillott, and welcome to the latest in a series of interviews we're conducting for Connected Real Estate magazine as part of our research on the in-building wireless ecosystem. And today I am joined by Mark Horinko, who's president of Airwavz in Charlotte, North Carolina. Without further ado, Mark, welcome. And first question is the easy one. Who are you? What do you do? And what does Airwavz do?
Well, thank you, Iain, for the opportunity. Great question. Great softball. Yeah. Who am I? I've been working on, in, and around wireless and cellular networks for about 3 decades now. I started when I was about 10 or 11 years old. I've been playing with cellular networks for a while now. So what do I do? I execute our mission here at Airwavz in providing high quality, cost effective in-building wireless solutions, both for our commercial real estate community and customers, and also for the wireless carriers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint. Airwavz, what we do is we provide in-building wireless infrastructure, again, for both the commercial real estate community as well as the cellular carriers. We design, build, own, and operate these systems. So we offer these in-building systems as a service, as a monthly fee, and I'll explain the model a little bit later in our conversation.
Okay, great. I've known you for a while. I've got to say, if you started when you were 10 or 11 years old, it's been a really rough 30 years on you. So how do you view the opportunity for in-building wireless? So obviously commercial real estate here, but obviously I know you and I have had this conversation in the past, but I'm curious on how you're viewing the opportunity today, and what does it look like going forward the next couple of years?
I guess massively underserved would be my initial reaction. The in-building, specifically commercial real estate, really hasn't been touched in the last 30 years. I think 2, 3, maybe 4% of the commercial buildings actually have infrastructure today. I know it's picking up momentum, but clearly left behind in this wireless evolution or revolution, if you will. What I find fascinating about the space is majority of all the traffic comes from inside buildings. The vast majority of traffic comes from inside buildings, but yet we're not serving the buildings. So I think if we truly want ubiquitous 5G services, we've got to get more infrastructure in commercial buildings. You'll often hear me say around the office that we're really in the top of the first inning of a 20-year in-building game here. So we got a lot ahead of us. There's a lot to do. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting technology changes, evolutions in this space over the next few years. It's a really exciting opportunity.
Right. Yeah, we did a survey a few years ago of employees in offices and asked them what they were doing, because the natural response when you say in-building wireless is, well, you've got Wi-Fi, so you're fine. What else do you need? And we found that there's a lot of people sit at their desk with a nanny cam or a pet cam. They want to do their banking from their phone. They don't want to go through the corporate firewall to do that. And a lot of times the corporate firewall will block video and other things like this. So the video session we had today, for example, can cause a lot of problems for firewalls. So an LTE in-building solution has a lot of needs. So it's interesting that 3-4% you quote is I think about right. So the long way to go.
Yep.
So, yep.
We're also seeing in that same vein, PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC comes to mind, but we're seeing enterprise, take the BYOD model, bring your own device to work even a little bit further. PwC is not putting in landline phones or desk phones anymore. They're going 100% mobile. So that's just going to put more pressure on the commercial real estate and getting infrastructure in these buildings if everybody's moving to mobile devices for their voice.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about specifics here. So what is it exactly that Airwavz does here? What do you offer When do you get involved in the whole process?
A great question. You know, I'm going to look back just a little bit here. In part, you know, why we don't have infrastructure in commercial buildings, and it's really been, you know, cost. They've been expensive, and you know, Airwavz set out early in our lives to figure out how to reduce costs, and quite frankly, there is no silver bullet to you know, to pull costs out. So we attacked it from many angles. One of them was our go-to-market strategy. We really embraced the fourth utility concept. Thought it was appropriate for this particular segment of the market. And our message to building owners is to look at it as a utility, just as you would electricity or water or you know, gas. It's you know, the building owner's responsibility to hire the electrician, and the electric company will bring, you know, power to the meter. Same thing with water. It's the building owner's responsibility, you know, to hire the plumber, and the water company will bring water. We look to the building owner to pay for some of the pipes, if you will, the wireless pipes needed to run these services inside a building. And then we look to AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile and Sprint to bring the radio source or the you know, the service, the wireless service to the building. So by doing that, it enables us to, you know, really share the cost between multiple parties. It makes the transaction a little bit more complicated in that we have three parties, but it helps us spread the cost between the building owner and the carrier. Given that we do offer it as a service, infrastructure as a service to both the building owner and the wireless carrier, we you know, offer it a very low monthly cost per square foot. It's surprising how you know, how by sharing the cost, how much we were able to reduce each party's you know, financial commitment to a project like this. We've also done some architectural things. You know, we put a lot of time into looking at 5G and some of the needs from edge computing and private LTE. So we're laying a lot of the foundation in place for some of these future services. So, you know, it's virtually impossible to future-proof these networks. But I will say, I think we've put a lot of effort into at least trying to mitigate the risks of you know, technology and new services that might be layered on top of this infrastructure in the future.
Okay, so obviously fourth utility, you talk about managed service here. So just to clarify, it sounds like if I'm a building owner, I don't have to put any capital up front if I don't want to. I can just pay for this as a monthly recurring, as I would for my water bill, electricity bill, etc. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. There's no upfront payment from the building owner or the carrier for that matter, and which there's virtually no risk. We don't invoice the building owner until there's a service, and we guarantee what that service is going to look like. And if we fall short of that at some point in the future, the building owner can, you know, is protected. I know a lot of orphan systems out there that building owners had, you know, put money into and couldn't get carriers to connect. So that risk is off the table with us. We can't provide, we can't get radio source from a carrier. There's no expense or no risk to the building owner.
Right. So in terms of, obviously we're talking about the ecosystem here, and the report we're doing, you know, looks at all the different players. So what's the first part you get involved in a building? Do you do the design of the system? You know, do you do the engineering, or where do you get involved?
Yeah, you know, to be honest with you, we do a lot of work before we even get to the building. We have a pretty good idea of, you know, what the networks look like and where the troubled spots are. And we put our resources in and around, you know, buildings where, you know, we know that there's, you know, network issues or capacity issues, or, so we have some visibility to that before we even get to the building. But yeah, once we get a relationship with a particular building, we take ownership of it from beginning to end. You know, we do the benchmark testing, we do all the design work. We work with, you know, some of the best engineering firms in the industry to help us pull this together. Then we work real close with the carriers. We have excellent relationships with all major carriers today, and go through a collaborative design with the carriers to deliver a system that meets both the building owners' needs and the wireless carriers' needs, given that both, if you will, make sure we're providing a system that meets their needs.
Right. And then obviously once it's installed, since we're doing it's a monthly recurring here, then I assume that you're involved for upgrades and maintenance over the long term, right?
That's correct. I think what a lot of people miss in this industry is the ongoing operations expenses of these networks. It's one thing to put the capital in and get a system inside a building. It's another to operate that over an extended period of time. With demand on the networks growing at roughly 40% a year conservatively, and that's been true really over the last 50 years. You got to add capacity at a 40% growth rate. You're essentially doubling your capacity every 22 months. And I think that's missed in a lot of equations with some of our peers in the industry in deploying these systems. We take care of that. We manage the capacity. We work with the carriers on the capacity. We manage the operations. We monitor it 24/7. We see issues, long before the end user or the tenants or the building owner would see it. So we're very proactive, and we're responsible, like I said earlier, from day one, the engineering, the installation, and then the ongoing operations. We include in our price as well move adds and changes. If a tenant is in a building and moves out and somebody comes in and upfits, we'll go into the building and decommission that part of the building, let the upfit happen and come back and recommission. That's all part of our service. So we're trying to keep it very simple for all parties and all inclusive. So you got basically, one throat to choke.
Right, good. So I know you've built out quite a few buildings already. So what is a successful in-building wireless project look like to you guys?
Well, I had to laugh. Where I'm going. I think we share sentiments here, but yeah, any project where we have 4 carriers is hugely successful, and then bringing radio source, that's a challenge right now, for sure. There's just so many priorities when an industry is growing at 40% a year. It's really hard to keep up with the demand. So I think what we do really, really well is keeping our projects front and center with the wireless carriers, and making sure that they understand that there's another customer in the equation. But I will share one. Being in the industry a long time, I never would have 25 years ago thought we would be where we are today in terms of being able to move as much data over these networks as we are. But we just finished a project in a high-rise building where the anchor carrier was really starting to roll out some, what I'll call kind of 5G type features, if you will, both advanced, MIMO being part of it with some carrier aggregation where they're starting to bundle different blocks of spectrum. But we were seeing well over 100, 120 megabits per device, which was pretty fascinating. I wouldn't have, like I said, I wouldn't have expected to see that this early in the the 5G cycle. So I'm real optimistic, real excited about what we have ahead of us in terms of delivering some pretty amazing networks.
Those types of speeds are what I've seen before a couple of years ago, but I was in one of the major operators in their headquarters, and they had every piece of technology known to man thrown at that building. And you're talking about a commercial space, a regular office building, right? Nothing, it's one of your customers.
Yep, and it was in a downtown dense metro area that, from an RF perspective, was incredibly noisy. And noise is an enemy to throughput. So it was pretty amazing. I was pretty impressed.
That's good. Okay, this is great. Last question.
Yes.
Yeah, what keeps you awake at night? What is it that worries you about this in-building space that we're not addressing today? And let's look at it from an industry-wide perspective, that in a couple of years is going to come back to us and we'll say, darn it, we should have done that in 2019.
That's a great question. Making sure that we have a clear understanding of the you know, the 5G roadmap and making sure that we're not missing elements today that would make it difficult in the future. You know, there's new spectrum coming out with the CBRS and, you know, some of the millimeter wave stuff. You know, edge computing is on the horizon. We're actually getting inquiries today of private LTE networks and trying to figure out, you know, how we can support private LTE networks as part of this whole, you know, in-building system. You know, we're looking beyond just the wireless infrastructure, I guess, and really looking at, you know, what kind of services can we put on top of this infrastructure above and beyond just Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint. Public safety is really starting to emerge. You know, we're trying to figure out, you know, making sure that you know, we're designing these systems to support all these emerging services, smart building, you know, IoT. There's just a lot out there, and I think if there's anything that keeps me up at night is just, you know, really making sure that you know, we're checking all the boxes and we're doing the right thing for our customers.
Great. Well, Mark, thank you very much for your time today. Good talking as always. Today we've been speaking with Mark Horinko, who is president of Airwavz, and this interview is part of the special report we're doing with Connected Real Estate magazine, looking at the in-building wireless ecosystem. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.